So infinite banking versus whole life insurance, which is better? They may not be better. They might be the same, but there are some nuances and differences here. So let's dig into what that means. All right, so you're probably wondering, infinite banking versus whole life insurance, which are you supposed to be doing? What's the difference? Pros and cons? Here's the thing I'm going to tell you flat out. In many cases, we kind of coincide them together, although they can be separate. So let's talk about the infinite banking strategy versus whole life insurance as the vehicle and see what the differences are and how you can use it together to get the best returns on your money. All right, so let's talk about these differences. Whole life insurance versus infinite banking versus whole life insurance, right? Here's the simple answer. Infinite banking is a strategy. Whole life insurance is a financial vehicle. And infinite banking can be used with whole life as a strategy, right? So they can be used together. But in some ways, you may look at it as being different. Because, for example, even though infinite banking utilizes whole life insurance, not all whole life insurance works as infinite banking. So what do I mean by this? Let me give you an example. When I first heard of the infinite banking strategy, I just quit being a financial advisor. I realized people weren't becoming financially free, so I was looking for answers. And I got into this real estate investing space because I found that people were financially free there. And as I was in that space, people would bring up this strategy about infinite banking. And I'd never heard of it before. I was a financial advisor for 4 years. Not once did anybody ever tell me or use the phrase infinite banking. Never heard it before. And so I asked them, well, what is this? They're like, well, it's a strategy you can use to be the bank. You can be your own bank. It's like, okay, what does that look like? Well, you get a whole life insurance policy and I'm like, wait, what? You use whole life insurance for this? The most boring financial thing you could possibly get, besides term insurance, of course, but the most expensive and boring life insurance, and you're gonna get whole life insurance of this thing? Isn't that a waste of money? They're like, no, it works great. And of course, now I didn't know anything about whole life insurance other than what the financial advising firm I worked for told me, which is whole life is a waste of money, don't get it. They pay 1 to 2% returns, not worth it. Okay, great, whole life stinks. Well, I didn't know that for a fact. Then I started hearing about this infinite banking thing and using whole life insurance. I was like, wait, what is this? And so I read the book by Nelson Nash called Becoming Your Own Banker. Great book to get. I recommend if you're just going down this little rabbit hole. It's a good book to read. There are most of the things I like about it. There are a few things that I think are outdated and you probably wouldn't use it for, but it does open up your mind to the possibilities. Shout out to the Nelson Nash Institute that actually really has birthed this strategy from Nelson Nash, right? So anyways, I got a whole life plan. I eventually got it. I drank the Kool-Aid, got it from a guy that they all recommended. And I remember looking at it thinking, man, this is really expensive. And he just told me, well, that's what it is. The whole life insurance is more expensive up front. It's cheaper over time. I said, all right, well, it seems like everybody likes you. I trust you. So, all right, just give it to me. So I set it up. This is 2006. 2008, 2 years later, I'm in the depths of the recession. I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire during that period of time, so I couldn't afford to keep paying these premiums. I paid about 25 grand into it, only to find out I had no cash value, which is that tax-free savings account inside the whole life insurance. No cash value in it. And so I had to let it go. I couldn't afford to keep paying the premiums. There was no way to keep it going unless I kept paying. So I lost it. Months later, I find out as I'm doing my own research, the insurance agent really lied to me. I could have actually done what I asked him before. I was like, well, can I do different things and make the insurance cost cheaper? And he told me no. He was wrong. He could have actually done it, and he did know that. So he really lied to me. But of course, when I confronted him about it, he wanted to argue like, no, you're supposed to have the biggest death benefit possible. Your human life value's got to be protected and all this stuff, right? But in truth, what I really wanted was I wanted something that was a great vehicle to use to create more wealth with it. I wanted to do what they talked about doing. And so that's where I realized up front that not all infinite banking is the same. And not all whole life is designed the same way. Even though the infinite banking strategy could work with it, it's how you design the whole life. By the way, I showed him with the numbers. I said I could actually have more cash in these policies, even having the biggest death benefit as you wanted to. I could still do this better. And the only reason he did it, he told me, he admitted, he said, Chris, the only reason I did it that way is because I couldn't afford to cut my commissions. I had to do it that way. I said, that's it. I'm done with you. I'm done with you. You're dead to me, right? No, that's what I said. I was like, no, I'm done. And so I just said, I'm not sending you referrals anymore. I'm going to start figuring out how to do this on my own. And so over the last 15 years, I've been trying to refine the process to figure out what leverage we can pull to make it as cheap as possible on the insurance side so that the cash grows faster. Because that's the ultimate essence. Infinite banking requires you to have that cash value. That cash value is what you utilize to leverage, with creating your own banking system, so to speak. Now, Infinite banking will often teach you about buying your own cars with it, where you borrow the money from your life insurance company, right? You borrow from them, you're paying them interest to go finance a vehicle. The crazy thing is everybody tells you, oh yeah, don't get bank loans, they're a ripoff. But guess what? That insurance loan you get is technically a bank loan. Even though it's private, there's no monthly payments, but you are paying interest to the insurance company. Even if you don't pay it right away, because you can pay it whenever you want, deadline's your death, you got to pay it by then. They just take out your death benefit and pay the rest of your family tax-free. But really, it's just another bank institution, loaning you money at an interest rate. So when people tell me, oh, don't use the banks are a ripoff. Don't get that 30-year mortgage. 30-year mortgages are ripoffs. No, they're not. They're actually just math. And if I can get the same or lower interest rate with the bank, and even a little bit higher with the bank, if that means money I don't have to use out of my own pocket or leverage because I'm using life insurance, I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to leverage the bank all I can for cheaper money, student loans, car loans, mortgages, things like that, even for my investment properties, even some business loans. I'd rather leverage the bank than leverage my own money. Now, if the bank doesn't give me money, and this is what happened to Walt Disney, right? When he did this very same concept. Walt Disney, when he was trying to start Disney World, he wanted to start getting the money out there, but the banks told him no. They said, no, I don't think this concept is going to really work out there. Disneyland you got lucky, but going bigger with Disney World out in Florida, not so much. What did he do? He said, listen, what if I borrowed some of the money from my house, do a home equity line of credit, and I leveraged the cash that's in my life insurance policy, not the death benefit, but the cash that's in here as collateral. Will you give me the loan? And the bank said yes. And now we have the happiest place on earth that makes you wait in line for 2 hours. That's what we got now, right? So that's the cool thing, is that he was able to leverage that cash for that purpose because he couldn't get the money from the bank. That's what I like to use too. Even when I put a down payment on a property, I'll leverage the 20% down payment or 25% down payment. I'll leverage the cash from my policy by getting from the insurance company to then use on there. But I'll get the other 75 or 80% from the bank. So there's a lot of different ways to use this, of course. I mean, it's a great way to store your money. It's a great way to grow your money, of course. Tax-free, comes out tax-free. All these things are great benefits that I'm not really getting into. The real question is infinite banking versus whole life insurance, which do you do, which is better? The truth is you should use whole life insurance, not index universal life. That's another topic, but universal life does not work with traditional infinite banking. Even Nelson Nash himself said it was not meant for that purpose because they don't act the same. And in fact, you could actually lose a lot of money with IULs if you're not careful. But whole life actually works better when you're doing this kind of strategy because you can make money in 2 places at once. You can make money in interest over here because they're not pulling your money out. They're just using it as collateral while you still get paid tax-free dividends. And you make money over here too, especially if you use this money to invest, whether it be in business, real estate, whatever you might be using it for. Heck, you can go blow it in Vegas. I just don't recommend it because then the money doesn't come back. But if you're using it for good investments, this money can work great to make money in those investments and still pick up extra interest dollars that they're paying you over here that's tax-free. You can make money in 2 places at the same time. That's why I like to leverage it. Not to mention, there's all the benefits of storing that money for liability purposes. I get a lot of real estate investors who say, man, even just the fact that no one can sue me. I mean, they can sue me. People can sue me, but they can't get to this money in this particular bucket. They can take out of my savings checking. They can take out of my IRAs. They can even, take out of the home equity. They can actually put a lien on my own house, but they cannot get to the money that's inside this policy. Many of them will just store money in here, won't even use it as their own infinite banking. They'll just use it as a good place to store money to earn decent returns, almost like a high yield tax-free savings account, right? Because at least the high yield savings accounts, they go down in their interest that they pay you, and they still tax you too. So I can make more money over here just by storing my money there as a safe place to keep my money. But yes, I can also use it to invest to make money in 2 places at once. And so whole life is the vehicle you use to do that. Infinite banking is a strategy. Now, as you just heard from my story before, it's how you design the policy, how the agent designs it. It's not just the insurance company you use, it's how the agent designs the policy that makes all the difference. This is really where the power of it comes in. Because with that traditional policy that I had bought before, that plain old whole life policy, this is where people say this is different than infinite banking. He was having me buy a whole life policy that was called base premium or straight premium whole life, where the minimum and the maximum were the same. I couldn't have any flexibility. We design our policies where there's a range. I always recommend people, if they can save at least $5,000 or $10,000 a year, this would be a good fit. Especially if you're in decent health, you're younger. Younger, I mean under the age of 70, younger. But definitely if you're in decent health, this is a great option. Even if you have family members in decent health, this could be a great option. People are using this for 529 plans instead. Like they're using this as college savings plans instead of their 529s. They're using this instead to store money for savings versus the bank. That's what I'm doing, right? So there's so many different ways to use it and leverage it. And the younger and healthier you are, the better the return is. And how we design it is how do we minimize the cost as low as we can possibly get it while still keeping it tax-free. That's the secret. And so when it comes to infinite banking, that strategy, there's a lot of different people out there. And I'll tell you, the reason why we started doing it ourselves versus sending out and referring out to different insurance agents to be specialists is for the reason that insurance agents don't always do what's in your best interest. They should, but they haven't been. And so we brought it in-house. We said, listen, every single time, this has to be designed the right way, the best way possible, where you have the max cash that's possible in your situation. That's the difference. And unfortunately, I couldn't find that with other people that even well-known here on YouTube. They're good people, but they're just like, no, I'll make the cost a little bit higher so I get paid a little bit more because that's how I make my money. The difference is we think like investors and business owners. I make my money from my investments. I make my money from businesses and things like that. I don't even have to make money here. But as a result, because I couldn't find someone to actually do what's needed for people, we did it ourselves. And so obviously, if you want to learn how to do that, you can always go to our website, moneyripples.com. You can actually book a call to see what it looks like. And by the way, be willing to shop it around. To look at different infinite bank policies, just to compare, just to see what they come up with. Make sure it's apples to apples. You want to make sure that they're showing the exact same numbers. But man, I'll tell you, every time, at best, we've only had people match our numbers, but never beat them. And if they beat them, it's usually because they cheated in some way to where it broke it, like you get taxed from it or something like that, so you don't actually keep the tax-free status on it. So anyways, go to moneyripples.com, check out infinite banking. You can actually book a call right there. But I'll tell you, infinite banking, whole life can be used together like peanut butter and jelly, right? Like they can work so well together. You just have to learn how to use it the right way so you can get to build and grow your wealth faster, especially when you use it in business and real estate. That's the key. So go visit moneyripples.com if you want to learn more about that now.